Hello, I'm Dale Matthews. Welcome to Inside News. Mike Jones is here as well. Hello, Mike.
It works better when I press the button and
Oh,
unmute the microphone.
I thought the lag was really bad now.
Yes, good evening, Dale.
Yes, okay. So we bring you the little back room, whether you want it or not. We bring it to you, and they have all kinds of wonderful gifts ready for you for Valentine's Day. Basically, they're going to put things on the ballot. It's always a nice idea, I think, to know what it is that the county commissioners have in store for us on the ballot. And one of the things you know that will not be on the ballot is Cheryl's four-pointed throwing star that impales you. That's not going to be on the ballot, but we're going to see what we're going to see some of the footage where they came to such a conclusion. So we're going to stop and start it anytime you want to, Mike, and just now join us. And this last Thursday's weekly business. Nope. Last Thursday's administration meeting. Go ahead.
Okay, so ballot titles do need to go to the clerk by the 6th of February.
26th.
Yeah.
Down to 24th. That's the last.
Because that's when you voted out as your business session topic. So really, that backs us up to the 18th would be the last time I could bring it to you in admin. And today is the 14th, so we got about a month to have everything ready. So what all do you want to have at this point?
We had talked about an advisory question in regards to 3458, correct? 3453, I'm sorry, 3453, wrong number. The advisory.
Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one who's messing up the name of that law.
Well, the way to remember it is it's 345 and then back to 3 again. 345.
Oh, okay.
3.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, and
that's helped me.
Pardon my interjection. It was
no. Anytime. And also, 3453 was passed a couple of years ago, and it allows the governor to declare a state of emergency, because this is emergency around here, remember? And then take over operations and funding, let's say, for the county jail. Okay, but there's just one catch. The administrator, these guys, would have to officially request the takeover. It's kind of like asking a vampire into the building, right? They can't come in unless you invite them in. So the commissioners here are going to ask Wally Hicks in the legal department to draft an advisory question for the ballot. It doesn't hold the force of law. It's just, would you like to say no to this, or would you like to say yes to this? And then Simon Harris says, well, it's the voters that should decide. He already knows the answer. And it's a beater question. They're trying to beat you into submission. They're trying to beat you into the corner. And they're trying to scare you by saying, here's what we're considering. Do you like this idea? Simon Harris told the Courier, and he said in this meeting as well, that decision is above my pay grade. It's sort of a mildly funny joke until you consider that we're paying this guy a lot of money to have some kind of feeling about what we know and what we don't know. And we know we don't want this. He knows that we don't want this. Why is this going on there as an advisory question, Mike?
Well, and it's clear that there is a shared for the lack of a better way of putting it, the chief executive position in our county is shared by 3 people. And that would be Simon and Keith and Cheryl. And so if that's above his pay grade, then I'm not sure he understands the job he's doing.
Yes. We understand on this show, this is not exaggeration, we understand the electorate around here better than all 3 of these people. A piece of cardboard, understand it's better than these 3 people. Okay? The thing is, they're not getting the point. People are telling them, or they don't want to get the point. People are telling them all the time what they want and don't want. Do you really think that we need to be advised, or we need to take a poll of the citizens of this county to ask if they'd like the state to march down here and take over everything? Really? Anywhere near a majority? Any more than just a few lunatic people? And I want their names. I want their names.
Yes. I think what's going on with this here is that they know that they're not getting their they know they're not getting their levies on the ballot, so they want this. And it's kind of like playing the lottery. Maybe the people will say yes, in which case they will institute it immediately if that takes place. If a poll comes back and says, oh yeah, this is what people want, and they'll probably try to word it in such a way that it makes it sound like it's a really good idea, and so they would institute that immediately if it came back. And I wouldn't doubt for 1 second, if these people get voted out, that they wouldn't try to put this in place as they're going out the door.
Oh, as a poison pill.
Yeah.
I slightly disagree with you, and I think it's more like, would you like stewed tomatoes for dinner, kids? See, I hated stewed tomatoes as a kid. No. Well, okay, here's a sack of stuff. Would you like this sack of stuff for dinner? No. Right. Okay. Would you like stewed tomatoes then? I think that's what they're doing.
Oh, okay, but where are the stewed tomatoes? You're doing this thing in May, unless you've got something to offer them. What are you going to do? Say, well, November. then how about a levy in November?
Yep.
Is that what you're thinking? Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you could be right about that.
Well, people said they don't want this, so they sure must want this. No, we don't want this. We don't want either, and we don't want you.
Listen, it's stupid, because no matter how you word this thing, and no matter how you get people to reject it or sign on to something else in May, when it comes to the actual terms of something being laid out for November's ballot, it's a no deal. It's not going to work. It hasn't worked in the last 10 or 15 years, and it's not going to start working this year. Definitely not this year.
Well, here's the really creepy thing. They sometimes say that they could do this without us. They do say that sometimes. Now, I'm not sure they're right about that, but they sometimes say that they don't need a vote of the people, sort of like the Grants Pass City Council. They don't need a vote of the people to do this, and they just want to be sure. You just want to be sure, really. You just cannot be that out of touch. You just can't be that out of touch. Cheryl, maybe, but the other two...
Okay, and that right. And that's why I come back to the possibility of this happening. Listen, if they're going out the door and they've got nothing to lose, tell me why they wouldn't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, the obvious case to be made against that is by the people going, hey, wait a minute, these people are on their way out the door. They're not in a position to be making a decision like that. But since when has common sense had any effect on these people?
Or on the state level?
I don't know.
Right.
Right. Yeah, even worse.
Commissioners have begged us and shown us the details that it's an emergency, but it's not an emergency. Oh, we think it is. Well, what would you know? We live here. I don't think these three do. Not really. I mean, how can they even talk about putting this as there's plenty of advisory questions. We played back that a number of people said, hey, that was pretty funny. If you wanted advisory questions, ask if the people would like to have a moratorium on the introduction of these stupid new taxes. But they can never ask that question, Mike, because they'll get an answer. They'll get an answer, all right.
Yeah.
Even if it's not the force of law. Well, let them do a little bit more here. Dig your own grave. Go ahead.
Question. So do we want the advisory question title to be written? We have time for the description, though. It's just the title.
Yes. No, sorry.
Everything has to be approved by the 18th.
Yes. No, I have to be able to bring it into you by the 18th for you to give me the final edits.
Okay. So.
And then approve them.
Okay. Shall we give them the go ahead to prepare the title? And this is on the advisory.
Are they talking about today, Dale?
No, they're talking about February.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, near Valentine's Day. Have you ever noticed how, okay, I've said some negative things about Wally Hicks because I don't like his attitude as an elected official, but not at all. But have you ever noticed that his answer is usually yes, no, or he doesn't have the right answer. He doesn't have the right answer. I got the right answer. He doesn't have the right answer, and the lady sitting next to him, boy, I really had to boost her audio a big time in order to be able to hear her at all. Because also notice in the rest of this meeting that there are times where Wally has to turn to her and say, "What did you say?" She's sitting right next to him, and he can't hear her.
Yeah, that's goofy. Listen, I do the yes no sometimes. That it is goofy, and I hear myself saying, I go, "Wow, that really is stupid." Yes,
not on this show.
Yeah, what I mean is yes, no. It's blah blah blah. It's a bad habit, is what it is.
Okay, a little bit more.
Here we go.
Question for that bill.
I'll plan to bring something back next Thursday. At first, kind of.
That one should be the law.
Yeah, it's relatively easy.
I think I guess it's what, do you understand what
Oh, I do.
you know the yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's a yes or no. Yes, it's a yes.
Are they speaking in code here? What is going on?
Sometimes, yes, they are. Sometimes they are. Yes.
Are you? Yeah, because it has to be the yes, no, whatever. What are they talking about? I mean, if they're talking about the text of an advisory question, right?
Right. And look, this is really, really simple. Why are they even discussing this? An advisory question should be yes or no. Advisory question can't be 3, 5, 6, or 9. An advisory question is yes or no.
Okay, gotcha. All right, makes sense.
But this one's going to be written in such a way that you don't say, no, I want it. You have to say, it's going to be very weird.
Yes, I don't want it. Yeah, this is stupid. They used to do this all the time in California too. Before I left there, is they'd have these tricky things where you had to answer a certain way, and it was obviously set up to catch people who walk into the voting booth unprepared and vote for something they think they're voting against. It's just that is really, really scummy. But that's what they.
Well, that's what we got. Go ahead.
Yes.
A yes or no valid advisory question.
Right.
As to shall the Board of County Commissioners request, that'll probably be how it starts. Shall we do something? Whatever the description of that bill is. I can't remember how they titled it, but shall they implement the provisions of House
Declare a public safety emergency.
to declare a public safety emergency, et cetera.
And turn it compact.
Right.
So
that'll be the title.
I'll come back with something you can start with. I'll target next week with Clint.
Okay. And then, of course, the other questions have to do with the proposal that I had proposed in December, and Commissioner Heck has already made his wishes known that that's a no on his part, but Commissioner Hare is the one that was going to come back today with his yes or no.
So I've given this a fair amount of thought. I think it's a constructive or creative solution that hasn't necessarily specifically been put before the voters that way, although the 2008 proposal is probably the closest thing to a.
Okay, in 2008, it was pretty much the same kind of question, okay? And in 2008, that was defeated by 66%, which is the biggest blowout for levies in Josephine County history, as far as I know. So
now, are you talking about an advisory question, or are you talking about what are you talking about?
They just changed over to the next subject. Sorry. The next subject now, many times they speak in these really fast ways and you can't quite follow what they're saying. I do understand that. They're now talking about Cheryl's idea for the 4 points of a levy.
And this is previous to Simon saying no.
Right. This was Thursday.
Yeah, okay, guys.
It was only a couple of days ago. I know we now all know this because the word got around pretty quickly, but this was only a couple of days ago.
Right.
Thursday. So, now Simon is saying it's similar to the one in 2008, which was defeated by 66%. Not 51 as it was in one of the years, but 66. And he's drawing that comparison. I would imagine that Cheryl's not too happy with the idea that he's comparing it to 2008. There's a lot of little subtle digs that are happening during this meeting and every meeting they have. They don't like each other.
Yeah.
Well, okay, if that would stop them from getting things done, I'd be totally in favor of that.
Well, there may be a way to work that to your advantage, but we've only got a few more months for all these people anyway. So,
and then we've got 6 months of living with them as lame ducks.
Yes. Oh well, that's unavoidable. Price
We're going
price
to
you have to pay.
Careful. Okay, go ahead.
More full in the district proposal for funding the jail. I don't see it being the climate, the timing. The timing is actually right for us, but I don't see an election year being a very positive time. We've had 11 proposed levies, I think, in the past, and it's just
9.
I don't think it's going to be successful. And although it's a creative proposal, I don't know that I can support it right now.
Although it's a creative proposal, well, that's a nice way to throw her a bone.
He's been saying that for a while.
Well,
he's been saying also for a while the timing isn't right. He's not saying. Remember when he told us I was very strong and saying no. He's not very strong about anything. It's a creative proposal. He just doesn't think that now is the right time.
Yeah.
Now we've hearing this from some of the candidates for everything, and some of them are saying, well, yeah, I'm really not for a levy, though, if the right one comes along, I would consider marrying it. Really? No. I don't want someone who's on the line on this, personally. I want someone that's very clear about what you're getting. Well, you may get great gas mileage, but then on the other hand, maybe you'll get beater gas mileage.
Yes, I think that I would hope that actually I actually know for a fact that not everybody running is smart enough to even lie about not being for a levy. Some of these people are still going to think, hey, this is a popular idea.
They do think that. It's just baffling to me. How could they think this is a popular idea?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, but whatever. Anyway, let's continue.
So do I interpret that as no?
That would be a no. There was one element that I was thinking about. So the other side is the fact that I had made a commitment before I make a decision to close the jail because of lack of funds. I would provide an opportunity for the voters to say, this is it, yay or nay. And I know that it isn't the most ideal, but that would be the next May question. So we'll know budget will happen.
Now, what is he saying here? What did he just say? He just segued into it so smoothly.
Obligation to tell people something before he closed the jail?
Yes. Now, what was that interesting combination of things, isn't it? What he just said is, not this May, but next May, he would consider putting it on the ballot, at least an advisory question. Would you like to close the jail because there's no money?
Yes. I think, listen, I think the only thing that they don't like about the governor coming in here with guns ablazing is that there is a potential there that somehow some surrogate would serve in place of the chief executives in this county instead of them.
Yeah.
And, that's the only thing that's unattractive about it to them. I probably should read a little bit more about that just to make sure if there's any possibility of that happening, because in that case, I could see them not being for it. But, everybody else in county government would love it. Would absolutely love that.
If there's a piece of news from this show, which would be unusual, if there's a piece of news from this show, this was it. Simon is just showing you his cards. His cards are he's going to continue to insist, as the commissioners have, as Cheryl Walker said straight out. She said this in the State of the County report to the Rotary Club, the one that we can't go to, that it looks fairly likely that the jail is going to close. No, it doesn't. But this is what she's telling people. Simon Hare is saying, I think it's a good idea to go to the people before, when we run out of money again, that we have to close the jail. Now, just a couple of days ago, the senator was here saying, right, the fight continues.
Yeah. And that's the only scenario under which the jail could possibly be closed. Is the SRS not coming in? But as we illustrated in a show here a few weeks back, you could fund all of these operations without the SRS money for a few years to come.
At least 4 years. That's correct.
You would have to actually assume an emergency status, in terms of where you got money and how you allocated it. And you would probably not allocate any of it for better mileage vehicles or anything like that, but you wouldn't be closing the jail. Listen, they just cannot stop with the scare tactics and the goofy way that they constantly are on the campaign trail for another levy.
That's right. They always are. Keep playing it.
The numbers in secure schools, which you don't have yet, and the finite numbers, the details exactly. We will have 45 days of operation before we have to close this down.
What?
We can build a budget in June that is around expected revenue. So.
Oh, you know what this is? He realizes there's a TV camera here.
Yeah.
And he's playing that. He was hoping that never made the news, by the way. So that's actually a good thing for us.
Hey, it just made the news. What do you mean? Where are the news?
Yes, I know, but that didn't make Channel 5, which is the TV channel that was there. So anyway.
No, they don't hear this stuff. They're not hearing this. I heard it at the time. I didn't need to play it back to hear it. It's all happening right there in front of you. Just have to listen quickly, whatever that means.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
That would be my only, because I have made a commitment very similar to Commissioner Heck that I just don't feel like initiated from the board. But these are the right place to come.
So the two of you have made your commitment, and you're going to stick with that. And I made my commitment to do everything I can to solve the problem, and I'm not going to give up. So just because this doesn't work, that doesn't mean I quit. So.
I don't like to consider that if it's possible that we're not.
Oh, I'm sure glad that Cheryl's not giving up.
Yeah, well, and then Simon, it's very difficult to hear. I'm sorry. Everybody in the room, people are leaning forward like, what the heck is he saying? So I did the best that I could. But now he's part of the background noise, and so it's very difficult. But what he's saying here is, hey, wait a minute, basically, I don't want to construe that we're not doing everything that we can also, because she says, I'm going to keep doing everything I can to keep us safe and think about the children. And Simon's like, hey, wait a minute, we're also doing that. We just don't think that your idea is any good. That's all.
Yeah, but I think that these guys understand, but don't have the cojones to just answer no immediately.
Yes.
Without, I don't need to think about it. I don't need any debate. It's a no. And they can't say that sort of thing because I guess they're kind of waffly and weak and don't have any leadership capabilities. But they understand that even in the circumstance with the looming of the SRS payments going away forever,
any minute
any minute now, they can't pull the trigger on it because the people are not interested in that. Listen, we know these people are lying. Why do you think that in the face of the cutting off, I mean, the literal end of all funding from the government, that we're still not buying their story and buying into a levy. Why do you think that is? Because we know these people. That's why. And really, most of the county knows these people and they've seen this movie play over and over and over and over for the last 10 or 15 years.
But all this time I've been sitting there, all these meetings over all of these years, they always say that the payments are going to be cut off this year for sure. The payments are going to get cut off. And after a while, now it doesn't mean the payments are forever. Just ask the judge. There's no such thing as permanent. We get it. Okay. But the idea that it's going to happen while my brother is drifts in and out of being super religious. And he says, the apocalypse is happening next week. And I said, brother, here's the thing. It's going to happen about a year after you die. It's not going to happen while you're alive. Okay. It's just not going to happen now because honestly, you're not important enough for the whole apocalypse to be surrounding you.
Well, that's an interesting way. And listen, how long have people been walking around with sandwich boards? They don't do it with that anymore. Now they just tweet it on Twitter that the end is near. You know, that's been going on, you know, ever since I can remember, and probably 100 years before that too. So
it's certainly possible that there are things that can go wrong, and we've already told you, we've worked out the math. It's mathematical. Okay, that we can live for 4 years. Well, that's not forever. But I mean, if you're running out of oxygen, we're running out of oxygen. Well, you got 4-year supply. Can you think you can come up with one plan, 2 plans in 4 years? And maybe listening to you have no ideas. We had a 3-hour meeting where we had nothing but ideas. Okay, and I wasn't even included. We're not going to include you. Okay, whatever. So that was rude of them, not of me. So maybe, but until we say this is not an option because the people don't want it. Yeah, but the people are knuckleheads. Maybe so, but they don't want it. Yeah, but they must want it. They don't want it, but they must, but they don't.
Yeah. You know what? If we could mobilize something similar to what happened in 2010 with the Tea Party thing, I mean, that was a big deal. They had a Tea Party meeting in almost every town, you know, and there was a, you know, pretty good sized one that happened here. And, you know, and people didn't really know what they wanted out of that. They were just angry at the direction that the country was going. Well, you know, why can't you just be angry at the direction that the county is going and show up in similar numbers, for crying out loud? You know, I think that's how you get action. When politicians see pitchforks, that's when they start moving. And generally not until. Yeah.
And we were there when it happened. They came in, they were sure they were going to do one of those things. People crowded in there. They said, we definitely don't want this. They were overwhelming. And you've taken over the meeting. They did take over the meeting. And at the end of that, the commissioner said, well, we never really intended to do it. And the audience just laughed and laughed. It was victory. You can do it. You can do it. We just tell you this stuff, and we also try to do something about it. But really, most of it's up to you. And more than anything else that sounds repetitive, if you tell a couple of your neighbors about this stuff, what you've heard tonight on our shows, not just our shows, your shows, if you talk to them about this, then the word kind of gets around. There's nothing that moves faster. It's amazing to me. We'll do some kind of show, and then within a day, I'll hear somebody talking about it and using the same words. I don't know that person. The word can definitely get around.
I think that, you know, I guess people have to want it bad enough. You know, you might have to show up more than once. You might have to actually show up to a meeting. You know, these kind of things. There's a physical presence. That's a very powerful thing. And people that organize, do political organizing, a la Barack Obama sort of thing, they understand the power of that. They really do.
Learn some lessons. We can learn lessons. The other alternative is if you're not going to grab up your neighbor, whether you know him or not, and drag them to a meeting, if you're not going to be doing that, can you,
yourself,
1, watch the show, 2, maybe tell somebody, and if not that, vote in the next election and try to vote for some people that are going to put you first. Not some imperial rulers who are figuring out the next best way to tax you. Some people who are there with you, among you, that said, no, we already know. We don't need an advisory question of whether this is a good idea or not. We already know it's a bad idea. They have to be in touch with you.
Right. But I would say that if you're going to get some sort of movement out of the federal government, you really are going to have to actually show up. I hate to tell you, you may have to actually show up and make a stink about things and let them know that there's people over in this particular sector here who are, you have had about enough of your BS and want you to come down with some sort of a solution, which they could do in a microsecond. All they're doing is shuffling chess pieces around here because they'd like to spend the money over here. But and since the people over in Sector B, that's us, aren't griping at all to us about this, they're not. They're just happily going. Every once in a while, they vote no on a levy, but that's about as far as it gets. You're going to have to get vocal to where these people can hear you, and then when they hear you, they'll go, "Oh, we need to put a little bit more grease over on those wheels." Because, they're starting to squeak. We'll take it from these people over here who aren't squawking. And you know what? That is how the game works. Whether you like it or not, that is how it works.
Here's the other thing that you're going to want to keep in mind. Don't vote for anyone that's going to change things. I'll tell you why. Because if you do, whoever that is, if you were to vote for them, if they got in, 2 of them, in 6 months and 1 day, the recall is going to be in full swing. The recall will start the day that those 2 people look like the day they are elected to take over in 6 months. After they're in for 6 months and 1 day, that's when there will be people on a state level who have to have those 2 people recalled.
Yeah.
No matter what. They'll make up something if they have to. Then we've seen it in the past. If you get reformers in there, we saw it with the city council, we saw it with the county commissioner. When that happens, they're going to recall that person unless you step forward. Now, if you're not willing to step forward, if you say you're asking too much, I cannot step forward, then that person, those 2 people are toast.
Yeah. Exactly. And then you go right back to the way that it was, because you'll have you'll have some more yes men for the machine back in there. I think that would probably be beneficial to do a little bit of expose on what happened, like when the city council and the whole city council got recalled, to expose who the movers were behind that, because we know who got recalled. Do we know who it was that made it happen, and who was prodding the effort from behind? I mean, because those same people are going to be the ones that launch any sort of a recall against even county people, because darn well that the recall of Sandy Casanelli happened from inside. That got launched from the inside, and of course, by virtue of that fact, it instantly had backing from the Courier and other outside individuals, and so they got some free press out of that, and so I think it's instructive to know who these people are, so we're waiting for them to pop their heads up so that we can whack-a-mole them.
Well, we're doing that now with these kinds of things, which is why we're showing you these sort of partially boring meetings, so that you can be informed about what it is. Because in order to keep you lulled into sleep, they have boring meetings where they speak in code to each other. Our job is to try to make the meetings a little less boring and point out the things that they're actually saying. So one is, we need to have Rob Pell on here. We need to have him on live and talk to him, have him tell us the story that is never completely told about what happened to him as a city councilor. And the other thing that we need to watch on this is that keep in mind the 2 biggest things against Sandy Casanelli were she was always saying no, Casanoli, vote out Casanoli, and that the meetings that she was running were chaos. Tony Webb has said this. Tony Webb said this. Okay. So vote for her if you want to. Okay. So here's the thing. We did the research. We did the math, as we've done on lots of things. Oh, well, the math doesn't matter. Yes, it does. She said yes 90% of the time. Yes, 90%. Why is she Casanoli? And if they had 2 votes already, which they did, then what do they care? Because she was bringing up stuff they didn't want brought up. She was not Casanoli. She voted yes 90% of the time. It was a lie.
And here, let's just stop for a second and ask the question. Why is it that we're voting for 90% of the legislation that gets thrown at us? A lot of this stuff comes at us from outside of this county, suggested by entities in the state or entities outside of this county, coalitions between counties and things of this nature. This is all being proposed from the inside. Why not say no to 90% of that? You know, I don't understand why we have to swallow everything that they feed us.
The other thing that they said about her is she ran meetings that were chaos. I talked to Tony. No, she didn't. You weren't here. Well, I heard that, no. What was happening is that county personnel were coming up, department heads, and they would wait till the people were done. And then the county personnel would be called on, and they'd get up there. Well, that guy's totally wrong, and here's 11 reasons why. And some of the reasons may have been true, but most of them were not. Or the county commissioners would do it. So she said, you know what? I'm going to give the citizens, if you mention them by name especially, I'll give them 30 seconds. Well, they weren't going to tolerate that because they weren't the last ones. They have to be last. They have to have, even department heads had their protected time. That was not chaos. The meetings were not lasting longer. As a matter of fact, when she left, the meetings were longer than ever because the commissioners were free to go on and on and on about what idiots we are. Yeah. Don't buy into the media, even this one, unless you see the proof of these things. Like I've been accused. Well, he gets up there and he rants and he raves, and maybe a little bit, and he uses bad words. No, I don't. And he takes over the meeting. No, I don't. And he's super rude. No, I'm not. So why would anybody believe that? They believe that because they've been told by a certain club in town. They've been told over and over and over again by the commissioners who don't like being held accountable. If they don't like being held accountable, what are they going to say? Well, the guy's totally wrong, 1. He just has that videotape. Yeah, a stupid videotape, 2. And he stinks. These are their arguments.
Listen, if people come into the meetings there and watch what goes on, they would know that there is no chaos. It's a perfectly controlled situation. Dale Matthews come up and do your 3 minutes. He comes up, does his 3 minutes, goes and sits down.
Now they don't like what I say. They really don't like what I'm saying, but I'm not bad.
Right. No, but that's their issue with him, is that they don't like what he says. Now, there are plenty of other people that say things that I think are crazy. Then they don't have any objection to that because they're not addressing the commissioners specifically. You know, that they're just saying something goofy. And so that is what their problem is with. And listen, be they right or wrong about Dale's criticism, he should have the right to come in there and say what he wants to say about it. You know, and like he says, he's not using profanity. He's not being rude. You know, they could say that he's being rude because they interpret it as him being rude because they don't like what he says. Some people in the audience interpret it as Dale being rude because they don't like what he says. But the bottom line is that those people have every right, the same right that Dale has, to get up and say what he wants to say. They have that same right to do that as well. And so they should just stop griping about it and get up and take their 3 minutes. And, you know, then there wouldn't be anything to complain about. But the point that I'm trying to make is that if we're not aware, if we're, you know, these other situations, that these recalls of the counselors that were in there that were from everything I heard, it happened before I was really paying much attention to what was going on in local politics. But these were kind of reformer people.
Yeah, they were.
And they didn't like them. Well, I would imagine that recall emanated right out of the city staff.
Oh, yes.
That'd be my guess.
These guys had suggested that a big project that was going to happen along the riverside, that if they were going to do that kind of thing, a big one, that the public should have some kind of say about whether it's going to happen. Oh, that was the end.
Right. Right. And so we should be watching this, and we should be checking those people hard when they pop their little head up and start these little things. As a matter of fact, you know what? It's not enough to get rid of the mayor and the city councilors. In my mind, you need to identify these bad actors within the city and county government and get rid of them.
And why then can we, one of my things is, why would you take the risk with somebody that's on the borderline? I'm not quite sure what I think about this. Why would you even take that risk? What you should do, in my opinion, is you should go with the people who say, we're not going to do this. Don't go with the people who say, oh, we're definitely going to do this. And don't even take the risk on those that are straddling the fence. Why would you do that?
Yep.
Some of them are nice people. I like them. But I'm not going to take the risk on that person. Because if they're straddling the fence now, they don't know what they think. Really? There's going to be people when Simon, and this is going to go on the ballot, when he puts out this advisory question, they're going to say, this thing about the state coming in here and taking over everything, I'm not quite sure what I think. You're not quite sure what you think?
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, there are people that watch this show that have an issue with 3453. They are really frightened by it. They believe that there is a risk that this is actually going to take place. You understand that fear is exactly what this board wants you to have. Listen, now maybe I'm just a risk taker and I want to, play with truth out on the table all the time. I would rather know, let's deal with this right now. You want to fight with me? Let's do it right now. Yeah. Let's not wait until later down the road. Let's have this fight now so we can get on to something else later. And this is what's going on. They want you to have fear. Cheryl wants you to be extremely fearful of 3453 coming down. The boogeyman is coming to get you, and you don't know what the boogeyman's going to do when he gets here. He's going to wake you up in the middle of the night, and he's going to turn you upside down and shake all your change out.
It's no coincidence that this question is coming on at the same time as Cheryl's suggestion for another levy. That's not a coincidence. No, they're trying to scare you. Oh, do you like this idea? Oh, do you want this sack of something? Then I guess you want stewed tomatoes, right? No, I don't want either one of them. And it never occurs to them that people would say no to both. We don't want that, and we don't want you. Because you keep coming up with these same ideas. Herman Bertschiger, I kind of like Herman. Oh, there's no consensus. There's no consensus? What? Yeah. And Herman will tell you, this thing doesn't have a chance of happening. Well, there are people who'd love to do it, but that's not going to happen. That's what he said.
There's no consensus for a levy. That's the issue.
But he'd like to go around the county and gather people's information, for the first time. As the Cuffs people said, this is the first time that we've listened to you. It's the first time you've listened to us. Why didn't you tell us that years ago, right? He'd like to go around and then put a price tag on it.
Right. Yes. Because only more money is going to solve this problem.
That's what this illustration is about. They'd like to put a price tag on it. Well, we'll just put a nice happy bow on it. And the price tag is $100. Yeah, well, no, get out. This is not what we want. And we've told you what we want. They know what we want, Mike. They know what we want, but they don't like it. One more. And I've mentioned this before. And the thing is that Cheryl Walker said during this meeting, too, we're not going to play any more of this meeting. We'll probably play more of it tomorrow night. Because we also want to get to things like the school levy, $5, and Simon's great idea for a 1 cent levy. It's just it's a foot in the door. Okay, and we're going to talk about what those are and what they're not. But the point is, Cheryl will say, but the people, I mentioned this before, the people aren't voting for the children. Yeah, well, that's probably true. Yeah, but the Juvenile Justice Center is closed. Yeah, well, not quite, because we still have people who are working there. Well, we don't have as many people working there. Look, how many kids do you think were in there? And they'll tell you, 4 or 5. Wait a minute, we've got 4 or 5 people in the administration for that. What? That's a 1-to-1? And there used to be more? There used to be more. What was it? 3-to-1? What are they doing? The 3 of them are sitting there watching the kid like this? What kind of top-heavy organization is this? And they've got enough people now. Each one of them could sit with a kid. Oh, I got paperwork to do. What the heck kind of paperwork can you have? The kid's sitting right there.
Yeah,
so go watch him.
It's a silly deal.
I got off.
By the way, here, just let me give you the news on the survey. That we put out a survey, and this survey question is: should Josephine County join the class action lawsuit Lynn County will file against the state of Oregon for breach of contract on behalf of the Forest Trust land counties and local districts? And the numbers come down like this: 79% say yes, and 14% say no, and the balance is unsure. And the funny part about this is as a part of this survey, I supplied the Lynn County's press release so that people could go read up and discover what the whole thing was about, so that they could be educated. And still, you had a number of people be 6%. Unsure.
Okay, so what this is?
5-point-something%.
And they told us, we haven't been collecting money that's been due to us. We have. This is in a county we're hanging on by our fingernails. We haven't been collecting the money that's due us for about 15 years.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, it hasn't even occurred to them. And this is something we've discussed before, that we, up until the mention of Lynn County talking about this, had no idea. Now, understandably, there isn't a great amount of these type of lands in the county, but it is like 6,000 acres. How do you lose track of 6,000 acres
for 15 years?
For 15 years, and so bottom line is that probably over the next or over the last 15 years, we lost out on $450,000. And some people are trying to make the case, well, we shouldn't get on board with this. Oh, really? Would you like this $450,000? Oh, no, you keep it.
Look, even if it's $450.
Yes.
Are you going to believe these commissioners when they say we're doing everything in our power, why we've cut back to the bare bones, why we're not letting anything go undone or unsaid? No, that's absolutely not true. 15 years. Okay.
Well, so this is interesting. Let's talk for a second about the 1 cent levy. What would that ultimately net?
About $60,000.
About $60,000. They were going to spend $500,000 on water testing. You mean to tell me they can't come up with $60,000 to fund a lawsuit from this county to the federal government? Give me a break.
Yep. And we spent $600,000 on one piece of software that you don't get to own. You only get to use it. Then $60,000 extra a year for a guy that comes in to make sure that it will work, plus $60 more extra $1,000 a year, for a total of $120,000 extra every single year. 5 years, there you go. There's your $600,000 again for software maintenance from an outfit that's apparently not able to maintain it well enough that you have to buy someone to come in. And what happened to that guy? He's probably still working there.
Probably is.
These people don't know how to manage money. And all it would really take is a couple of common sense guys or women, or a guy and a woman, or a small child, or a piece of cardboard that would say, look, this doesn't make any dang sense.
And how smart do you have to be sitting there and realize that something doesn't make sense? You go, it is a matter. Well, here's the problem: is that they don't come at these things with skepticism to begin with. They should. Anything that's being proposed by government ought to be met with skepticism. And if you can adequately dispatch my skepticism, then maybe we can talk about doing it. But until you can do that, then back burner that thing.
And follow what the people are saying, because you're supposed to represent them. And what I was trying to say before is that people have voted every time not to fund juvenile justice. They did vote to fund more funds for pets. Okay.
Yes.
Well, but that's not right, says Cheryl Walker. Cheryl. It's the people. But it's not right, Cheryl. It's America. But it's not right, Cheryl. It's a free and fair vote. This is what they decided to do. I don't like it. Well, get out then.
You know what? I have to think that perhaps the reason why pets are more sympathetic to people is that you can abandon a pet by the side of the road, and generally kids are not abandoned. They may be treated very badly, but they generally don't abandon them on the side of the road. Occasionally it probably does happen, but more often, I mean, people drop their cats and dogs off someplace and speed away screeching tires, and so maybe that's why I'm trying to search for a reason that doesn't make me really worry about, the morals of society, that somehow we care about animals more than we care about children.
But the thing is, if the commissioners want to get up there and lecture us week after week about that we should do what Cheryl Walker thinks, okay, all right, I don't like it, but they are the electorate. They are the people. And once the people have decided and made it clear to you again and again and again and again that
they're
this
the
is what they want,
chosen
and
ones.
that's not what you want. That's right. They are the bosses. Yeah. Once they've made that decision and decided that check and balance, that thing, cost benefit analysis, once they decide what they want to do and don't want to do you think that you might get behind them and say, look, I don't agree with you, but I do represent you. And if you don't, then you don't represent us.
Right.
Simple.
I like it. I like it.
Get out.
It's a simple idea. Basic.
Let's help them to the door, Mike. Let's help them find their way to the door. Because so far they can't find anything, even if it's pasted on their bottom.